I have a heart that doesn't cry to listen. He doesn't argue. That's not a prosecution. He enters the room and all this, ambitions, deceptions, flattery, uprisings, frost. For what? Because everyone in attendance knows that no one can manipulate this spirit. This mind is not emotional. This spirit sees everything, and all the worst. He won't let it go. This is a genre that makes Machiavelli's a secret, not to demonstrate, not to threaten, but to control. He called this a ruthless spirit, not because it's cruel, but because it's immune, low-soaking, wine immunity, noise immunity, and as soon as you create it, you do not need to command submission. People offer it. Let's start with the basics. Unshakable clarity of purpose. Most people are embarrassed. They don't know what they want. They don't know that they are being used. They break through joy and guilt, ambition and fear, loyalty and resentment, and their goals can be manipulated, complied, threatened and distracted by anything, as their minds can manipulate, complied and threatened. But a ruthless spirit, he has a goal, and everything else leaning against him. This clarity is not from the board of directors. It comes from a cruel conversation with yourself. Do I really want comfort? Who should get it? What are you ready to lose along the way? Once that is determined, the noise disappears. Stop explaining. You stop the fluctuations. You stop responding to opinions. The goal will be your armor. Distraction will become your enemy. Emotions become your tool. Most people are derived. You drive, and this difference scares them. Absolute control over emotional outcomes. Understand this. People are not afraid of what you are feeling. They fear what they can't read. If you are surprised, humiliated, if you smile when you are blessed, if you are under pressure, you will give you a card to control you. But the ruthless spirit is beautiful. It is always impossible to read in a predictable way. He knows the more you reveal, the less you control. Machiavelli's heart was made like a mirror. If it happens, calm down. Reflect praise and silence. During the attack, nothing is reflected, because emotional responses are currency, and ruthless minds use nothing. This does not mean you are paralyzed. This means that your feelings are disciplined soldiers and not reckless invaders. You can be furious. You may feel joy. You may be sad, but only private. Never when they want you. This controlled peeling is in the way. It makes people question their strength. And if their operations fail, they decrease. Instant identification of weakness in others. Machiavelli's greatest weapon wasn't brutality. It was observation. He could see a man speak once and know what broke him. He listened not for answers, but for tells the word they repeated too often, the silence they avoided, the person they kept defending, the moment they sought validation. These weren't just quirks, they were cracks, psychological seams where power leaks. A ruthless mind is a predator of information. It asks, what does this person crave? What do they fear losing? Who do they try to impress? What makes them irrational? Then say nothing. Keep the knowledge. Use it when it matters. Because when you speak to a person's fear without them ever revealing it, you don't need to dominate them. They submit internally. The removal of guilt as a decision maker. Society trains you to obey guilt. Think about how they'll feel. Be nice. Don't hurt anyone. This is a brilliant strategy. If you want to stay weak because guilt is not morality, it is emotional programming installed by others to make sure you serve their comfort. The ruthless mind. It checks every guilty feeling with a question. Is this guilt valid or just a leash? You cannot build power while constantly apologizing for wanting more. Sometimes you must disappoint people who drain you. You must ignore pleas for one more chance. You must say no without giving a reason. You must walk away from the emotional blackmail of people who are addicted to your attention. And when that guilt rises, don't fight it. Don't obey it. Just watch it. And then choose based on strategy, not emotion. Because once people learn that guilt no longer works on you, their grip is gone. The cold internal motto, I am already alone. Here is the final foundational layer of the ruthless mind and the most feared trait of all, self-containment. Most people walk around begging silently, validate me, stay with me, don't leave me, tell me I matter. And because they crave connection above all, they compromise. They tolerate disrespect. They delay their goals. They shrink for the approval of those who wouldn't bleed for them. But the ruthless mind begins from a different premise. I am already alone. I owe nothing. And anyone who joins me must add strength, not weight. This doesn't mean isolation. It means independence before interaction. You don't need them. You choose them. And if they become disloyal, disrespectful, or dangerous, you don't react. You release without begging, without warning, without regret. That level of emotional self-sufficiency is what paralyzes people, because they realize they cannot use loneliness as leverage anymore. Now that the foundation is set, we move to the next phase: how to use this mind in social warfare, how to win without fighting, and how to make others question themselves just by standing still. A ruthless mind isn't about chaos. It isn't about cruelty. It's about clarity, so sharp it cuts through every mask in the room. You don't fight. You don't flinch. You don't explain. You simply look at someone and they begin to doubt themselves. This isn't magic, it's strategy. And in this part, we turn from internal foundation to external effect. Now that your mind is unshakable, we learn how to use it to paralyze people without lifting a finger. The stare that reads souls, the power of observational dominance. Most people speak to be heard. You observe to see what's hidden. You enter the room and say nothing. You scan. Who's performing? Who's uncomfortable? Who's trying to impress? Who's watching you too closely? You say less than anyone, and by doing so, you force everyone else to reveal more. This is what Machiavelli understood best. Silence isn't absence, it's extraction. The ruthless mind doesn't just watch. It studies like a surgeon looking for weaknesses under the skin, and when someone feels studied calmly, wordlessly, without emotion, they begin to feel naked. Their ego cracks, their confidence trembles, they fidget, they over-explain, they try to win your approval, but you don't give it. That's when the power shifts. Speak in precision or not at all. Here's a rule: every word must either clarify, correct, or control. No gossip, no unnecessary stories, no moral speeches. Every time you speak, it must interrupt the pattern of the room. Example: when others exaggerate, you understate. When others ramble, you speak in short, lethal truths. When others joke to disarm, you remain stone calm. This contrast alone makes people nervous. They think, why isn't he reacting like us? What does she know that we don't? Your detachment becomes a mystery, and mystery in social dynamics is paralysis. Because when someone doesn't know how to read you, they default to caution. That's control without commands. Let people hang themselves with their own words. A ruthless mind knows you never argue with the foolish. You observe and let them dig their own grave. Let someone try to insult you. Stay still. Let them speak too much. Nod slightly. Let them lie. Make a mental note, not a correction. The moment you show no emotional response, they grow more desperate to provoke one, and eventually they say too much. They reveal their jealousy, their insecurity, their obsession. Now you know exactly where to strike, without ever striking. Machiavelli didn't believe in reacting to fools. He believed in letting them expose themselves fully, then making one decisive move, often later when it mattered most. Patience isn't weakness, it's strategic cruelty. Reject the need to be liked, and you'll be respected. Most minds are enslaved by likability. They seek smiles, approval, inclusion, and in doing so, they become soft, predictable, manipulatable. But the ruthless mind is not here to be liked. It is here to be felt, to be remembered, to be feared for its silence, not praised for its charm. This doesn't mean being rude. It means being indifferent to approval. Say what needs to be said, whether it comforts or cuts. Walk away without needing applause. Let your absence say more than your presence ever could. People may not like you, but they'll think about you when they make decisions, and that's more valuable than any compliment. Control the frame of every interaction. In every conversation, one thing is true. Someone sets the frame, the other reacts. The frame defines what the conversation is about, who's in control, what matters, and what doesn't. Weak minds walk into other people's frames. They answer questions, defend themselves, try to explain their value. The ruthless mind, it ignores the question, redirects the topic, sets the terms. Example, asked, "Why did you do that?" Respond, "Why does it matter to you?" Insulted publicly, respond with silence, and walk away. No defense, questioned aggressively, smile faintly, and change the subject. Every time you refuse to be pulled, you reinforce your position. I am not here to win your approval. I control what matters. Once people learn that they can't control the narrative around you, they stop trying, they adapt to your frame, or they fall silent. That's how you dominate social dynamics, without raising your voice. Let reputation speak before you do. The most ruthless minds don't need long introductions, because by the time they arrive, their reputation enters first, and a reputation built on silence, strategic detachment, and psychological unpredictability does more than intimidate. It paralyzes. People think he never explains himself. She cut someone off for less than this. He's dangerous, not because he's loud, but because he doesn't flinch. This aura is built slowly by never reacting emotionally, by walking away when disrespected, by delivering consequences without announcements. Eventually, people fear not just crossing you, but confusing you, because confusion leads to silence, and silence in your world is exile. By now, the transformation is underway. You've killed the need for approval. You've trained your silence to speak louder than words, and you've turned your observations into invisible weapons. But Machiavelli would remind you, power unused is power lost. A ruthless mind is not built just to defend. It is designed to pressurize reality itself, to shift the air in a room without violence, to disarm the clever without ever speaking, to make powerful people feel unsure around you. And for that, you must learn how to tighten the grip invisibly. Weaponize your silence. Silence used weakly is just awkwardness, but silence used deliberately becomes a form of psychological compression. Here's how it works. Someone asks a personal question. You pause, make eye contact, and say nothing. Someone accuses you. You look at them, unblinking, not angry, not sad, just still. Someone confesses something inappropriate, trying to test boundaries. You don't laugh, you don't respond, just stare politely, like you didn't even hear it. What happens? They start unraveling. They try to fill the silence. They over-explain, and they retract. They stutter. You've said nothing, yet they've exposed themselves. This is Machiavelli's rule. The one who must speak first loses. Every time you hold silence longer than expected, you transfer pressure from you to them, and most people break under that pressure without even realizing it. Stay unpredictable in small, controlled doses. A ruthless mind doesn't need to be wild or chaotic. It just needs to introduce uncertainty. Why? Because predictability makes people comfortable. Uncertainty makes them cautious, and caution means they submit their freedom of action. Here's how you use it. If you always reply instantly, suddenly delay. If you usually show warmth, go cold for a day. If you're expected to praise, give a sharp correction instead. If someone is always testing your patience, disappear without a word. These aren't tantrums. They are calculated interruptions of pattern. It keeps people wondering, did I go too far? Is he angry? What changed? The moment they begin to second-guess themselves around you, you've already taken the upper hand. You've made your emotional availability a privilege, and everyone becomes desperate to regain it. Leave psychological traps. This is one of the most advanced tactics of the ruthless mind. Machiavelli didn't just react to people. He planted situations to study how they behaved under pressure. He knew reputation hides character, but stress reveals it. Here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. Delay a favor they expect and observe their patience. Introduce a false rumor near someone and see if they run to repeat it. Test loyalty by sharing a secret with one person and see where it surfaces. Go silent on a manipulator and watch how long they last without poking you. These are not cruel games. They are filters. You are sorting. Who can hold their tongue? Who is easily rattled? Who has loose loyalties? Who only stands by you when fed? The ruthless mind doesn't wait to be betrayed. It flushes out betrayal early and calmly removes it. Never let people know what punished them. This is a master stroke. When someone crosses the line, you don't lash out. You don't send a message. You don't explain why you're pulling back. You just shift quietly, subtly, permanently. Maybe you stop sharing with them. Maybe they're no longer invited. Maybe your replies go from warm to neutral. They'll feel it. They'll panic silently. They'll ask mutual friends, "Did I do something wrong? Is he mad at me?" And no one knows because you never made it public. This creates a terrifying effect. They begin punishing themselves. The mind of the offender turns inward. Was it that joke I made? Maybe I talked too much. Should I apologize? They replay the memory 100 times, slowly breaking their own sense of certainty. Meanwhile, you move on, completely unfazed, completely in control. Practice cold mercy. Power isn't in destruction. It's in offering survival under your rules. Sometimes the most ruthless act is to let someone live with what they've done. Don't respond to the insult. Don't reply to the betrayal. Don't chase an apology. Let them carry the weight of their mistake. And when they return trying to make things right, look them in the eye and say, "We're fine." Not, "I forgive you." Not, "Let's fix it." Just, "We're fine." Said with the tone of someone who has moved past them completely. This kind of detachment is lethal. It tells them you didn't need revenge. You didn't need drama. You just outgrew the situation, and them with it. This crushes the ego more than any attack. Protect your internal world like a fortress. All of this means nothing if you let someone gain access to your inner world too easily. A ruthless mind is not just guarded, it is sacred. You do not overshare vulnerabilities to feel close, seek therapy and friendships, confess weakness just to connect. You share your internal world only with those who've been tested. Why? Because if people know too much about how you feel, what you fear, what you want, they will use it, even the ones who love you, especially them. So you build a fortress. Journals stay locked. Dreams stay private. Wounds are healed in silence. Strategies are revealed after execution, never before. The more people guess about what's inside your mind, the more powerful your presence becomes. By now, the ruthless mind is no longer an idea. It's a reality forming inside you. Still, cold, sharp, you no longer beg to be understood. You no longer fear being disliked. And you no longer bleed for people who'd never do the same for you. This final phase is about making it permanent, so that the way you move through life itself becomes a silent system of psychological dominance, not because you wish to harm, but because you refuse to be disarmed. This is not Machiavellian cruelty, it is Machiavellian clarity, and with it, you become the person no one wants to cross, because they don't know if they'll come back the same. Let's finish it. Become the unpredictable constant. Here's the paradox of the ruthless mind. You are predictable in values, but unpredictable in response. Everyone knows your laws. Respect is non-negotiable. Disloyalty ends everything. Silence is earned. Emotion does not override strategy, but how you enforce them, no one can quite tell. Sometimes you disappear. Sometimes you correct once with a stare. Sometimes you smile and say nothing at all. And it's this psychological fog that makes people tread lightly, because a ruthless mind is like a quiet forest, beautiful, still, full of life. But everyone knows, take the wrong step, and something deadly wakes up. Stretch time to win power. A ruthless mind does not rush, because it knows the truth. The slower you move, the more power you hold. When someone offends you, wait. When someone lies, don't confront immediately. When a major decision arises, say, "Let me think." Why? Because people expect emotionally driven immediacy. They're conditioned for reaction. But when you delay your response, you create pressure. You create uncertainty. You show that your time is your own. You think before speaking. You observe before striking. You think before speaking. You observe before striking. You pause before deciding. This shows one thing: you are not emotionally possessed, and in a world full of impulsive minds, that's a terrifying kind of intelligence. Let people destroy themselves, trying to understand you. When your mind becomes unreadable, something remarkable happens. People project themselves onto you. They assume you're angry when you're just focused, you're arrogant when you're just detached, you're mysterious when you're just strategic, and in trying to figure you out, they expose themselves. They reveal their insecurity, their desire for closeness, their need for approval. Let them say little, react less, correct no one. The more people guess about who you are, the more they lose control of who they are around you. And that's the essence of psychological leverage. Enforce boundaries with surgical coldness. You're not cold because you lack feeling. You're cold because you enforce your limits like law. And when someone crosses one, you do not negotiate. You pull back instantly, cut access immediately, give no closure. They ask why. You respond. You know why. Or better, you don't respond at all. You don't over-explain. You don't try to make peace. You don't invite a second betrayal. Machiavelli believed that a ruler who tolerates small disobedience invites greater rebellion. You are the ruler of your world. And the moment someone violates your standard, even once you teach them through consequence, not conversation, operate on two layers, persona and intellect. A ruthless mind is never fully visible. It has two layers. The persona, calm, polite, reserved, slightly warm, just enough to make others disarm. This is your armor. It keeps the world from seeing your full arsenal. The intellect, hyper-observant, pattern-seeking, cold in calculation, always weighing risk, power, leverage, and exposure. This is your weapon. It works while you smile, while you nod, while you pretend not to notice. No one suspects the fire under your stillness until it burns them without warning. Use memory as a ledger, not a wound. The average mind forgives too easily, or forgets too late, but the ruthless mind uses memory strategically. It logs betrayal like a ledger. No emotion, just fact. It remembers false praise, shady silence, selective kindness. It recalls exactly who was useful and who was a liability. And when it's time to rise, choose, remove, or promote, this memory speaks first. It doesn't replay the pain. It doesn't seek revenge. It simply adjusts access. That's the quiet power of memory, when it's not used for pity but for positioning. Let people regret losing access to you. Most people teach the world, you can hurt me, and I'll still care. But a ruthless mind flips the script. Once access is gone, it never returns, and the moment people realize that, they regret. Not because they loved you, but because they can't replace you. You didn't beg, you didn't fight, you just vanished with full clarity and no noise. They talk, you build, they wonder, you rise, they gossip, you become untouchable. Final rule: make peace with being misunderstood. Not everyone will understand your coldness, your stillness, your sudden absences, your refusal to explain. Let them misunderstand. Because Machiavelli knew a lion does not need the sheep to approve of his silence. And you, now forged, clear, lethal in clarity, no longer live for applause. You live to create silence in others. You live to stand where others break. You live to move the world by not moving at all. That's not power. That's a mind so ruthless, it paralyzes.